Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook and welcome to another conversation. Martin, my first monthly supporter, monetarily. I've had so much support from lots of people over the years, but I wanted to reach out and he said, you know what, I like those conversations. And I thought, okay, let's have a big one. And the one that I want to talk to you guys about today is, do we have to pay a lot of money to have good scotch? And I'm going to start with this $20 Adelphi bottle. Going to end up with this, usually around here, it's a $200 bottle, Craigellachie 17. And this is the first time I opened it on the short. I poured it out, and it's already been resting about 15 minutes, and I want to make sure I've given it lots of time before I even try it. But we're going to start with a very, very simple bottle, and then we're going to walk through blends and age stamped single malts and try to decide, look, do we really have to spend a lot of money to get good scotch and to get a scotch that fits our budget? I think that's important. It's one of the reasons why I started this channel. So pour something you enjoy, pour a scotch you like, and come on back for the conversation. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. And what we're going to try to do is bust this myth that says you have to spend all of your money in order to get a half decent scotch. I don't agree with that. I think there are values out there. We're going to start with the least expensive scotch that I currently have on my shelf, and that's Adelphi. Actually, I should pour this. Adelphi, just their, what do you call this blend? Adelphi is an independent bottler. They also now own Adnamurchan, just a blended Scotch whiskey. I was trying to think of what this one's called, but I picked this bottle up and it's rapidly disappearing for $22 Canadian. I don't know what that is around the world, but it's really, really affordable. There's lots of ex-bourbon. There's lots of sherry in here. It's only 40%. It is on the floor in terms of a blended scotch. And of course, being blended scotch, it's got grain and malt. But it is very, very affordable. And I'll say, this class of affordability, there are scotches that I can like. You get fruit, sweet, and it's clean across the palate. Again, more sugars. I tend to get a little bit of artificial colas and artificial notes, and I think that's because of the potentially the younger grain. Although, Dark Cloud, you talked to me about how grain can be phenomenal. It can, but this is some pretty young stuff. And I've struggled with trying to describe why it's tough to stay on the floor as soon as you discover scotch. But I will say, if you're on a very tight budget, right? We're struggling to put groceries on the table. Something like this Adelphi is a decent pour, certainly for the price. And what I would say in this category would be things like Black Bottle, you want a little peat in there. Teachers, a little peat. I'm okay now with Cutty Sark Prohibition. Lots of you guys like that. I struggled with that one, but I can get behind it. And all of those are quite affordable, good scotches. I would say they are good. There's nothing wrong with having that on the shelf somewhere. But I do struggle to say that as soon as you're getting into whiskey, that this is where your journey needs to stay. I don't believe that. I do believe you're going to have to do a bit more research, invest a little more, pay a little more to get a little bit better of a scotch. And actually, I can stay in the same house. This Maclean's Nose is significantly better. Now, it's a lot more malt. It's got a lot of Adnamurchan in it. Like both ex-bourbon shares, got a splash of Campbelltown. And it's still a blend. There's grain and single malt. Don't have enough glasses to drink my way through all of this. But this is so much richer. It's 46% non-chill natural color. It's an integrity release. And for me, it was $45 Canadian. Now that is more than twice as much as this class of scotch. I started with this for a reason. You can get $20 to $30 scotch that you can still drink. But I'm certainly not replacing this. I had it, actually, I said it disappeared quickly, but I had it on the shelf for a while. As a reference, could we get there? I'm going to start to say, in my market, you've got to pay somewhere around this $45 mark to get a decent scotch. So even though I believe we can get good scotch for a good price, I have to say you got to pay a little bit more. then pretty close to the bottom. If you're stuck in the bottom because of a bunch of stuff that I talked about, there are better ones out there. The ones I mentioned, this one, I think, go find it if you like Scotch and you're gonna go, okay, there's still some character here. Pay more, it's not just a little more, 45 versus 22. It's a fair amount more, but you're gonna get into a better class. And that actually $45 to $55 opens up quite a few. In fact, speaking of open up, I'm going to talk about this 17-year-old later, but I also just got this for 53 something, no, even less, $51, and I just got it. Like, I literally just got it, don't have it open. I bought it yesterday, so it's still in the market, still on the shelf, 48%. It's non-chill. I'm worried it's colored, but Glengarry 12-year-old. I'm going to come to this in a second, but sometimes you're saying, well, I have to have non-age stamp, or I have to have, just blends to get value. Well, this 48% non-chill, $52 Canadian in my market. We'll see if I like it when we get to it. Coming back though, I wanted to talk on this side first. So we talked about how really getting into that $40 to $50 range gets you into better quality. One of the reasons why it's quality, I mentioned, non-chill natural color, but it's also the group. Even this $20, like Adelphi, Adden American, I believe they're going after a quality product. That's what you got to do. It's worth, I think in my opinion, doing a bit of research, watching a few of these videos, trying to find, okay, where are the good flavors? Because I certainly have expensive Scotch on my shelf, or that have been shared with me, that I'm like, it's good. It doesn't turn my head. This $45 McLean's Nose, solid. I would absolutely pour it against an $80 bottle and feel good doing so. I want to say value, definitely as I get over here, like again, this is that range, $45, $51. You're also going to be able to get, these were going to be all blends and these were going to be all single malts. And then I got the single malt kicking in the back. This is Deanston Virgin Oak, but it is the cask strength. Now, I have to say that I think from a flavor standpoint, their regular Virgin Oak might turn my head a little more, and it's in that $45 range, just like the McLean's Nose. It has just a nice little bit of oakiness with that Virgin Oak, and it has nice malt. That Deanston Virgin Oak is a favorite, but I didn't have it. And then this one, I only paid, $52 for a cask strength Scotch. But it's non-age stamp, and that is something where you might play on. Everything on this side does have an age stamp. These are blends. This one has an age. We're going to talk about that in a second. But you can find bargains. This Deanston, and it's natural, non-chill, right there on the label. So it's an integrity release. It's still a little young, and it's a little bit high vanillas for me. So another interesting thing that I really hope you don't turn your nose up on are blends. This $20, not a great pour. This McLean's Nose is solid. Then we can go to this. Now this is a big house. Dewar's is a big house, but this is the Mizunara cask, that Japanese oak. It's 21 years old. It's 46% natural color, non-chill filtered, and in my market it was $100 Canadian. Now, we've really gone up in price, and I didn't plan out, I don't script out my videos. I should have stayed at the 45 and tasted them. Oh, and also this one, and then moved into the more expensive. But I actually was thinking in my mind I wanted to work through blends. So this is a 21-year-old blend. That means it's still got grain kicking around in there, but the youngest can be 21 years. And it's got, malt, and it's got cask, sherry, and bourbon, and finished in Mizunara. And this is unique. You pay $100 for this. But this is a different experience than your $20 bottle. I'm not saying you can buy a $20 bottle and get the same experience as this. But this has an intriguing, pungent Mizunara cask nose with a bit of sweet leathered sherry on the palate. I've got a lot more body, chewiness. Now we're non-chill. The little sip I had here, I think I'd get a lot more body off this McLean's Nose, but it It is a broader experience across the palate. Now, we've gone from 20, 45 is a good recommendation point, solid, to $100. But this has a strong age stamp of 21 years. And the reason why I wanted to highlight it again is this is very, very tasty. And $100 Canadian, a 21-year-old Scotch should be considered. And a blend. The blend, I have no problem. Here I feel, because it's a little bit older grain, I know I'm biased that way, and I've heard people say I'm dead wrong on that. Fair enough. My experience has just said a little more age on grain does help it integrate or open up just a little bit more. And if you're looking for a 21-year-old, that's actually nowadays a value, and I think it's tasty and worth trying. So coming back to where I was, I think I was like, hey, you know, for $45 to $55 Canadian, you can get any of these Scotches, okay? We've got a blend, so there's a bit of a grain in here, but it's integrity at 46. We've got a monster non-age stamp. You're gonna get some young malt in that one, but you can dial it in with water. You can be very creative, and again, $54 I think I paid for that Canadian. 51, we're gonna see if this one's still any good at 48% non-chill. And a classic for me is this one, Craigellachie. Craigellachie, again, I know it's a big house, but they talk worm tubs. I know they use some diesel fired engines not fired engines, but heating to stop the malting. They got some interesting character. And as I said, non-chill, 46%. And in this price range, I actually want to suggest to you that this is still an interesting price range. We might even be going back into this price range. I used to say what I wanted to get at 50, I now have to pay 80 for. That's definitely what I've been saying. It tends to be what I talk to people when they say like, hey, I want a whiskey I want to try, and I try to figure out where they are, and the lowest I'd ever go is that, you know, $30 to $35 range, because you usually need to get off the floor. Yeah, this Adelphi's a little bit on the floor here. But push yourself into that $50, $55 range. All of these are that. These are solid experiences for me, and they're all very, very different. You know, you get, what is a worm tub like? We're going to get into the bourbon and sherry in this one, I hope. You get, like, what does a beast taste like? Like, if you pour a cask strength Scotch, am I even ready for that? And this one, where you got a little bit of interesting Campbelltown, you've got, you know, malt and a bit of grain, just a lovely blend. I would say to you, I could stop the video here and say, play in this range. There's good stuff out there. If you're tight on the, like, it's hard to make ends meet, it's still worth pushing it into this price range. Now, that said, let's keep going, because conversations are fun, and I hope it is a little bit fun for you and a little bit of conversation. Now, I want to come back and review the Glengarry again. I have. There's, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I think I talked about Glengarry, and for a 12-year-old age-stamped single malt, you know, we've got our casks, sherry and bourbon. And as I said, it's right on there. It says non-chill. Now, it doesn't say natural color, and that's too bad. Then I just can't consider the color at all. I assume they dialed it into what they want. But at least I know they left the oils in place. Okay, the worst thing happened. I went to edit, and my camera had died right when I was just tasting this, and I had no idea. So I'm going to try to get back into it. I feel like I've lost my momentum, and I apologize, truly, but I can't reshoot. I hardly have enough time to get this out. But I was talking about this Glengarry, 48% non-chill, lightly colored, and I had just picked it up and was gonna, like I said, it was rich, and it is. Actually, it's really good, and I can't wait to open this up and review with you. The point was, I was moving into single malts that you can still get with an age stamp. 12 years, one beside it, Craigellachie, 13 years. These sit in my market $50 to $65, depending on where you are, and they are good. I'm going to taste this one. Sláinte. Definitely full. Lots of body at 48%, but I'm getting some sweeter nut in here, some, like, you know, almond, marzipan, that kind of thing, and darker fruits, almost a cherry. Really enjoying this. I can't wait to get into it. Bought it yesterday. I paid $51. That's a steal. Found it in a small town. Sometimes go hit some small town liquor stores. Anyways, what I was crescendoing to is to get into a bigger Scotch. I mean, this is what I poured way back at the beginning, and I even did a shot. I think that's the promo shot I might be using. $22, maybe $200. Now, I only paid $100 for this, but this is a really big Scotch. Not sure where to put it. And its integrity, well, I don't know if it's colored or not. Right on the back, non-chill filtered, 46%, 17-year-old Scotch. So let's see if you push into, it's clearly the most expensive up here. I only paid $100, but if you're going to pay more, is this worth it? Oh, it's such a rich nose. Oh, here, let me show you the bottle if you haven't seen a Craigellachie 17. Actually, it really leans into its sherry side, and I'm surprised because I haven't had it before. This is the first time. The 13-year-old, to me, doesn't speak as much sherry. But there is a lot of sherry in here, and an almost floral note. Very expressive fruits, light vanilla. Let's try this one on the palate. Sláinte. Very rich. Even a little bit of chocolates, a little bit more cask influence, a little bit woods in there, oaks. Nice. The nuts are darker than this last one that I had. Instead of that sweet almond, we're in that walnut, pecan, that darker place. It's really, really tasty. And if you're currently drinking $20 Scotch, I really suggest that mid-range. But then you're going to want to try more things that are just a little bit more. And I have to say, at $200, it's really tasty. But that's already getting tough for me, especially, and I wanted to talk to you about, independent bottles. These are 57%, and you're $100 to $120 range. Age stamped, 12-year-old, 13-year-old. Really interesting. And I would say when you're starting to push out of that mid-range that I'm recommending, that $45 to $55 range, then I think take a look at some of these independent bottles. I think they're a lot of fun and can really push outside core range. And then look for who's saying it's really good. This is really good. First thoughts. Jeremy, Sipper Social Club, you said it's fantastic, and it's starting that way. But the question is, if this was regular price and $200 on the shelf, is that worth it? Or even more. I know people that spend $500, $800, $1,000 on a bottle of Scotch. And even right now, it's actually first thoughts on both of these. This Glengarry and I just opened these for the first time with you. And this Glengarry 12-year-old, I would say it's even a little more approachable than that 17-year-old Craigellachie. No knock on this. I need more time to pick this apart. I already did this bottle grouping to you guys before, but I want to say again, consider, I guess I'll put the blend over here and the monster in here. We've got age stamp single malts, not age stamp, but cask strength, and a really interesting blend, integrity from a group that I think is putting stuff out. I want to suggest to you, try to get into this range. Do you have to spend $800, $1,000? I just want to say no. I've had sips of things in those kinds of ranges, and it's always a good treat. But if you're going to spend your hard-earned cash, I want to say there is solid Scotch in this range. These 4 bottles represent a class of Scotch that I think we should be considering and looking at. And I'll tell you, Ralphie's, Aaron 10 would be in this range. It might now be pushing a little bit more. I have to say this range, I can still get these kind of deals, but a lot of, maybe not this, but these are pushing into the $80 range, and that might now be in most markets the sweet spot for Scotch. That Aaron 10, these two, that kind of thing, might be a little more $80. Do you have to go to $200? Well, I need to take this one apart more. I need to look into this, taste this, sip this, try it at different times a day, whatever it is, to try to get to know it, to tell you really what I spend $200 on it. Am I happy with these first thoughts at $100? You bet. And there are certainly great bottles that you should push into and save up for and try. What do you guys think? I've talked lots. I lost my way when my camera died, but what do you think is great Scotch? And what is value? For some, this bottle is great value. Let me know. Put your comments down below. Do you have some in this sweet spot range? Share, talk about, maybe share with others to point a few people that when you're coming off this range, where do you want to go next to get a good Scotch and not break the bank? I think you can. Thanks for joining me. Take care.